For this video, I'm going to talk about Iron Man 2, the video game, right? So Iron Man 2, the video game, is basically like a third-person action-adventure style game, right? With flight, various Iron Man style weapons, etc. Now, this is supposed to be based off of the Iron Man 2 movie, but it looks at a different kind of, it's a different kind of story, right? So it focuses more on a Crimson Dynamo and AIM, right? As opposed to the movie, which focused more so on Whiplash being the main villain. Now, this game is made by Sega, and I was able to trade for this game, and it is one of the, relatively rare games, right? It's still a common, but it is a relatively rare, compared to some of the very common PS3 games. Now, I forgot this was a PS3 port. I remember, growing up, I saw this for the Xbox 360, and I'm thinking, okay, but I know, right? It's also like for the PS3. Now, Iron Man 2, first off, the game relatively has a very short game, right? It's very short. It's not very long, right? It's to be expected for your video games based on a movie, right? Back in the day. Now, first off, the gameplay. So most of the gameplay, you are hovering as Iron Man, right? You either play as Iron Man or a War Machine. There's various different iterations or costumes of Iron Man or suits you can choose. So you're basically hovering, shooting down enemies, shooting down helicopters, shooting down robots, massive mechs, enemy turrets, etc. Now, talking about the weapons, you have blasters, you have missile launchers, you have heavy missile launchers, you have lasers, you have the, what do you call it again? The turret, a Gatling gun, right? The weird part about this, right, there is no unibeam, right? So there's no unibeam attack, which is kind of weird. The unibeam attack, which is the attack that comes from Iron Man's chest, there is no unibeam attack in this game, which is kind of weird. But like the weapons themselves, right, they feel very responsive. They, in terms of the balance, right. My favorite weapon are the blasters, right. So the blasters, which are literally Iron Man's hand cannons, right. They're very fast rate of fire, and they deal a high damage over time. Right, and my least favorite weapon is this shotgun weapon, right, which has a very slow rate of fire, right, and it's not very effective. The rocket launchers, right, they're obviously going to be very high damage, right, so you can take out enemies a lot quicker, a lot faster, efficiently. Over time, like in the game, you do upgrade these weapons. You upgrade blasters, you unlock newer weapons, you upgrade the rocket launchers. There's different like kind of versions like of each a category of weapon. So you're basically using field data. So you use field data, which is more so experience or XP points, to upgrade these weapons. And it's in the, it goes from tens of thousands to, the millions of field data points. And the more field data you have, the more you can upgrade. Now, the upgrades themselves right now, in terms of the menu and the weapon selection, is a little confusing in how you choose. You basically choose, I think it's like, you either choose a blaster and a secondary weapon, right? You can choose 4 weapons at the same time, right? So 4 Iron Man weapons at the same time, right? But in terms of the weapon variety in how you select it, it is a little bit limited, right? Even though I said earlier, you have, there are many different weapons. Sorry, there are different weapons, right? But the selection choice is kind of limited in how they I presented it like in the side menu. In the game, many enemies in the game, right? Regular foot soldiers to tanks to attack helicopters to giant mechs, right? There is like this giant kind of like mech robot called the Arbinger enemy, right? The Arbinger or something like that, right? It's like an advanced aim bot, right? Very big, huge. And you gotta basically take out its weak points in order to take it out. Right, there's an even bigger one later on in the game, right? Some of the enemy, overall the game is pretty easy. It is a pretty easy game, but I'm gonna talk about flight after, right? There are some enemies later on in the game that get very hit spongy, very bullet spongy, very armored. There's a specific enemy at the end of the game where, in order to take this enemy out, the only way to take it out is to take out its nodes, right? So the reactor nodes. But these things are replenished, so they literally are regenerate. They are repair themselves, self-repair, and you gotta take them out very quickly. So overall, like difficulty-wise, I guess it is more easy. You're gonna easily take down enemies, destroy enemy helicopters, destroy enemy tanks, enemy turrets. Now, some of the turrets can be very annoying. There's specific turrets or kind of drones designed specifically to take down your Iron Man suit. And they do have certain EMP blasts or EMP railgun rounds that they will take you down to the ground very quickly. So as well, like with the Iron Man 2 game, there's a health bar. So the health bar is basically, I think it's like, it looks at the reactor, right? So the a level of your reactor, and once it gets down to 0, your character is literally dead, right? Or your suit is destroyed and you cannot get back up. A good thing is that obviously there's going to be checkpoints, right? You can choose to save checkpoints, right, within a mission, so you don't have to restart the mission all over again, right? Which is good, and it does. A good thing the game does have auto save, so it does save after every mission. There's also flight, right? So there's also flight and the meleeing, right? So flight, unlike Iron Man 1, which had more kind of fast flying and, right, kind of more faster paced flying, this one has you hovering more, right? So you're more so hovering and shooting enemies, right? At the flight, so you basically press, I think you double tap L1 at the fly, right, forward, and you press triangle to ascend or X to descend and lose altitude, right? So the flying, the hovering itself feels more, it does feel more responsive in this one, right? With it being the sequel compared to Iron Man 1. There's also meleeing, right? So there's meleeing and, kind of close quarters combat, right? So it's mainly Iron Man punching other mech-like enemies, right? The meleeing wasn't really for me. It wasn't really for me, but say if your weapons are reloading, right? Might as well melee, right, certain enemies, right, near you, right? And the different melee styles are kind of like different kind of animation styles of melee you can choose. Now, presentation-wise, I would say visually this game is very average. Sometimes it looks kind of like a PS2 game. It's to be expected for a video game based on a movie, right? Some of the presentation-wise in terms of the visuals is gonna be lacking. In some of the cutscenes look very ugly. So with the character models. Now audio, in terms of the audio and sound design, the sound design is better, right? In terms of some of the tech noises, the blasters, the weapon noises, etc., the lasers. Now, overall, though, as you get further into the game, right, you get introduced to new enemy types, and the audio design gets better and better, and as well the audio design, in the voice acting, right? So I'm pretty sure they use Robert Downey Jr. like for the cast, and they used Adrian, what's his name again? Don Cheadle, right, to play a War Machine, right? And the chemistry, just like in the movie, right, and the chemistry between them here and the dialogue is just so well done. You can choose to, so in terms of replayability, you can choose to replay every mission again. So you replay every mission again. This game is not very long, which is a flaw. You can choose to replay a mission again, and you can replay the mission as a different suit of armor or as a different kind of loadout, right? Replayability wise, it's gonna depend on how much you enjoy these kind of superhero style games. In terms of the pricing of the game, depending on your area or region, I've seen it go for $30, $20, $15, $40. It depends, and there's always going to be scalpers out there, right? So I gotta be very careful where you buy it. So yeah, that is the Iron Man 2 video game. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.